Dioxins are a family of extremely persistent and harmful chemicals. They are released into our environment as a byproduct of industrial activities, polluting our air, our water, our soil, and of course, our food supply. What makes dioxins so dangerous is once they enter our body, they don't exit very easily. They set up residence in our fat cells where they accumulate and remain for a very long time. It's been estimated that their half-life in the human body is 7 to 11 years. Many health problems are linked to dioxin exposure. Multiple organ systems can be affected because dioxins interfere with basic biological processes. And so we're seeing strong links to cancer, reproductive and developmental problems, and damage to the immune system, the nervous system, the gastrointestinal system, the cardiovascular system, and the endocrine system. It's just a long list of health issues because we're talking about something that is so highly toxic, so present in our environment, and so difficult to eliminate. Dr. Linda Birnbaum is the director of the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences, as well as the National Toxicology Program. And she has dedicated almost 4 decades of her career to studying how the environment influences human health and disease. Her conclusions are that there are no safe levels of dioxins for the human body. And this means that scientists can't find an amount that doesn't begin to cause adverse effects. And that's worrisome, because all of us have some amount of dioxins in our bodies, including babies being born today. And so studies have accumulated over the years examining potential links between dioxins and developmental defects and chronic diseases such as cancer, thyroid disease, and diabetes. The studies linking dioxins to diabetes have specifically shocked the scientific community because they showed no association between obesity and diabetes unless people had blood levels of these toxins above a certain level. An article published in The Lancet reported that this finding might imply that virtually all the risk of diabetes conferred by obesity is attributable to persistent organic pollutants, and that obesity is only a vehicle for such chemicals. So, these are just a few of the reasons why dioxins are known as some of the most harmful chemicals that we are exposed to on a daily basis. So common sense dictates that we do 2 things to protect ourselves. And so here's what I suggest. Number 1, limit your exposure to dioxins. That makes sense, doesn't it? And there's some good news here, because the Environmental Protection Agency, as well as the World Health Organization, tell us that over 90% of our exposure to dioxins comes from our food supply. Now, why do I say that this is good news? It's because we know which foods to avoid. Almost all human exposure to dioxins is from the consumption of meat and dairy products, fish, and shellfish. How do dioxins end up in these animal products? One way is when chemical companies dump dioxins directly into the water. Dioxins are hydrophobic, which means they hate water, but they are lipophilic, which means they love fat. So once they settle in the water, they stick to particles, end up in sediment, and the sediment is eaten by small animals, and these small animals are eaten by fish, and bigger fish eat smaller fish, and that's how dioxins begin to accumulate up the food chain in the fatty tissues that they love to call home. Studies have found that dioxin concentration in fish is 100,000 times higher than that in the surrounding environment. So for people who think that eating fish is healthier than red meat, they have to be alarmed that some of the highest concentrations of dioxins are in fish, both farmed and from the sea. And so the next time a dietitian, a doctor, or a health-conscious family member recommends that you eat fish because of its healthy fat, think twice. Sometimes just because something is blindly recommended by many health professionals and for so long doesn't mean it's right or even safe. I published a video called What About Fish? Some of you may have already seen it. It explains the issues with fish and fish oil consumption and provides safer recommendations for omega-3 fats. Now, let's move on to see how dioxins end up in land animals. Similar as to what happens in the water, when companies release dioxins into the air, they stick to dust particles that eventually settle back down onto the earth, animals eat them up, and eventually humans, who are on top of the food chain, eat the animals, and that's how we accumulate dioxins in our own tissues. So if you are consuming a typical North American diet, your main sources of dioxins are as follows: eating beef, eating dairy products, drinking milk, eating chicken, eating pork, eating fish, and eggs. And as we've learned, even though dioxins are released in the air, the soil, and the water, our exposure risk is not from air, soil, and water. Dioxins love animal fat. And so these numbers from the EPA show that if you are on that typical American or Canadian diet, about 98% of the dioxins you consume are from these animal products. Plants do not absorb dioxins. Here's a study that looked at intake of dioxins from food and concluded that the category with the lowest dioxin level was a simulated vegan diet, which is consistent with the fact that blood dioxin levels in pure vegans also have been found to be very low in comparison with the general population. So a good plant-based diet is, without question, the number one way of decreasing the level of dioxins in your body. Now, I know I'm going to get this question. What about organic animal products? Aren't they better? People who think that organic animal products are safer, they should be aware that organic can be worse when it comes to dioxins. And this makes sense because organic farms allow the animals more time outside, where they are exposed to more of these persistent chemicals from the environment. For example, research from farms in EU countries have shown that organic eggs have dioxin levels higher than the EU standard and higher than non-organic. The authors of this review from the Netherlands suggested that, and I'm going to quote, management interventions like a reduction of the time the hens spend outside may decrease the dioxin levels in organic eggs, but at the same time may interfere with the image of the organic production system. The image of the organic production system. In other words, when we think organic, we're thinking of animals being let out outside and, living healthy lives. The image of the organic production system. Well, what this essentially means is that dioxins are a reality in today's world, and as much as we want to disregard reality and look at wonderful images, we have to at some point tell people the truth about animal products. Whether organic or conventional, there is no way to control dioxins released into our environment that settle on crops and fields and in the water that animals are exposed to. So if you're serious about limiting your exposure, there's really only one substantial way to do so, and that's by changing your diet. Okay, let's move on and discuss more solutions for improving your health. If you recall, I said there are two steps we can take to protect ourselves against dioxins. The first was all about limiting our exposure, and we learned that this means reducing and ideally eliminating animal products from our diet. The second step is all about getting rid of the dioxins that are already in our bodies. The half-life of dioxins, as I said before, is about a decade in the human body. So it can take several decades to get rid of this stuff. That's a long time. So the question is, how can we get these toxins out faster? Women have a way to do this that men can't do, but I warn you, it's not a good way. You see, when a woman is pregnant, dioxins can exit her body through the placenta and into the growing fetus. Not a good thing for the fetus. Women also get rid of dioxins by passing them onto their baby through breast milk. Human breast milk has been found to have higher levels of dioxins than chicken, pork, hot dogs, milk, cheese, ice cream, eggs, and even beef. Again, that's because we humans are on top of the food chain consuming a standard North American diet. An article in an online British newspaper recently warned that newborn babies have been taking in 85 times the recommended limit of dioxins in their mother's milk. The government admitted this. Dioxins are among the most dangerous of chemicals, and the government says it has no idea when it will be able to bring them down to safe levels. This is so concerning and so harmful for the baby that some scientists have questioned whether it is safe for non-vegan mothers to breastfeed. And multiple studies have been published on this issue, such as this one. Now, I very strongly agree that you must breastfeed. There's no doubt about it. Breast milk is so important for the health of any human being. And that's why I recommend that mothers do their best to breastfeed for 2 years. But as the study explains, the benefits of breast milk do not magically cancel out the harm of dangerous chemicals. So mothers, you have to do your best to limit your exposure to dioxins, and it is ideal to do so years before you even intend on becoming pregnant. But what if you are already breastfeeding and you're worried about dioxins because you never stopped eating animal products? The good news is that there are foods that will protect you and your child from dioxins. One such food is a single-cell green algae called chlorella. Several species of chlorella have been extensively studied for their ability to detoxify the body. I talk about this on my website. There's an entire page dedicated to chlorella, and I summarize about 60 studies showing its wide range of benefits. And here's one of them. I'll read the conclusions. The present study results suggest that chlorella supplementation not only reduces dioxin levels in breast milk, but may also have beneficial effects on nursing infants by increasing IgA levels in breast milk, boosting the immune system. And here's another one, and I'll read the conclusions. Total toxic equivalency factors in breast milk were approximately 30% lower in the chlorella group than in controls. This finding suggests that maternal transfer of dioxins can be reduced using dietary measures such as chlorella supplements. And remember that review regarding dioxins in organic eggs I showed you a few minutes ago? Well, here it is again. And if you read further down, there's a section where the authors discuss possible solutions to the problem. And they know there's not much they can do with the environment. And so they say, hey, we've seen studies where chlorophyll derived from chlorella was shown to block the absorption of dioxins in a remarkable way. So it seems like they want to give chlorella to their chickens. And why not? This ability to help rid the body of toxins is just one of the reasons why foods such as chlorella and wheatgrass are on top of the food pyramid that I recommend to my clients. And you don't need much. Just a little every day goes a long way. The natural plant compounds in these foods boost our immune system and block the effects of dioxins and other harmful chemicals that we are exposed to on a daily basis. The science on the benefits of phytonutrients has exploded over the past 20 years, illustrating more of the mechanisms by which a proper plant-based diet helps to prevent and even heal the human body. So men, women, children, chickens, all animals, everybody alike, we benefit greatly by consuming foods that protect us in this way. Now, I have to make one final comment on this issue, because as I was reviewing the information to make this video, something became quite obvious to me. Governments around the world, as well as all major health organizations, have expressed openly great concern about dioxins. Scientists have published thousands of studies on this issue, and they all agree it's one of the most dangerous chemicals ever created by man. It's in our environment, and it's in our tissues. And every expert on this subject tells you that the danger comes from eating animal products. But rarely did I see one of these experts or health organizations suggest that we should rethink our diets. Why are they so afraid to tell us to reduce or eliminate our consumption of animal products? Answering that question is a whole other video. But let me end like this. Let's not wait for governments to clean up our planet or to tell us how to make better choices. There's no time for that. We have to take responsibility for ourselves. And even though we are surrounded by challenges in our environment, it is the lifestyle choices that we get to make each and every day, such as the foods we choose to consume, that play the biggest role in predicting our future health. And in this way, we also get to choose what we pass on to the next generation. Thank you.